This is the second time I've done this take and I'm really nervous about it. But I'm gonna do my best and try not to be so awkward about it. Oh man. Hi guys and welcome back to my channel, and if you are new then a big huge welcome to you. Today's video is a topic that I thought I wouldn't film, but because there was something that really caught my eye, I thought that I would talk about this video. Talking about periods is something that can make a person feel uncomfortable. There are so many stories about periods because there are more stories that are going online about how people got their periods in the early stages to the later stages, especially with story time videos, because there were a few people who wanted to share their stories about how they got their first period, from one who got it at a regular age but she had to have operations, all the way up to one girl who hadn't got her period yet until she was 17. So this is kind of a thing that's currently going on in the YouTube community. But a strange thing though, this is something that, like I said before, it hasn't really touched on the autism community a lot. And I know talking about periods can be very uncomfortable for every single girl, but when it comes to the autism community, I don't know if most girls feel comfortable about it or they can feel awkward, but I guess everyone is different. But this is not the only time I talked about things that were really uncomfortable, because a year ago I did a video on autism and puberty, but I will leave a card around the video, and in the puberty video I remember talking about puberty on the girls side of things. I talked a little bit about boys, but since I'm not really a puberty expert on boys, just because I'm a girl, I tended to focus more on the female side, and this is what I'm going to be doing in this video anyway, focusing on the female side. Like I mentioned before on YouTube, some of the girls actually start their periods either young or very late, but I know that the regular age for a girl to start a period is between 10 or 11 all the way up to 13, 14, but I could be wrong, but this is what the age range is in my head. But my period came just about in the right age really. In the time before my period started, I was given a little bit of advice on how to use sanitary products, so things like tampons and pads. But basically at the time I started my period in the UK, there were only sanitary pads or sanitary towels, which are kind of like the same thing, and tampons. But there's a lot of variety now, but the variety for women when it comes to periods is in the US, because I know there's an introduction of menstrual caps, and I haven't seen one in the UK yet, but I'm gonna probably keep my eyes open for that. Now, what of the periods themselves? I did do some research before filming this video because I was really keen to see what happens when you're on your period, and I know it does sound a bit creepy, but there are some medical websites that explain a little bit to you. But because I never actually learnt about it at school, I was really quite interested of how it works, because when you are studying about puberty and periods in sex education, if you are in the US, or PSHE if you are in the UK, or anywhere else around the world, this is the thing though, when it comes to periods, not a lot of explanation is given to girls at school. So that's why I thought I would just have a look at it. And it turns out that when you suffer from really painful periods, or just periods that make you feel uncomfortable, this is your uterus contracting. Yep, your uterus contracts whilst you're having your period. This really did surprise me, and I thought, was that the case? But I had to have a look at every single website I found, including the National Health Service, and yes, it is true. The reason why your uterus can contract whilst you're on your period is because that in the lining of your womb, the uterus sheds the blood away from the womb lining walls. But the uterus doesn't work on its own when it comes to having your period, because it really relies on the forces to push out the blood from the wound lining. And this is where the muscular wall comes in. During your period, your muscular wall compresses the blood vessels in your womb. This causes by the tissues to release a set of chemicals, but it cuts off both blood and oxygen supplies, and the chemicals that are being released of the tissues are the reasons that make you feel uncomfortable. I could be wrong, but this is what I learned during my research. And whilst I was doing my research as well, I found that most of the things I have whilst I'm on my period has a bit of connection to the things that I was reading about. Because in some cases, women can react to something like nausea or convinced back pain, or sometimes even really, really bad shivers. And I don't know if one woman actually just has like the one thing or the other, but for me, I tended to have a lot of those things, because when I normally go from having terrible pain, and this lasts from day 1 all the way up to day 3, sometimes on the day before I start my period, I tend to feel really, really nauseous. I've only been sick the once, and since then I haven't, but I feel like I'm going to be sick most of the time. And then I suffer from terrible, terrible back pain, and I always feel cold everywhere I go. Even in the summer I feel cold, but it's a lot worse in the winter. When I always have my period, I always have to rely on my hot electric heat pad or a hot wheezy, but never a water bottle really, because I always tend to find when it leaks it really stings my tummy. So only like an electric heat pad or a wheezy are the two main options I would recommend. But I have to take some medicine as well, and the medicine that I take is ibuprofen or paracetamol, but most of the time if it's really bad I would normally use naproxen, which is a prescriptive drug given to me by my doctor. And I really have to be careful with my medicine because I can't really mix the naproxen and the ibuprofen together, but I can absolutely have the paracetamol. But the main important thing is, before I have the naproxen, I always have to have food, and I'm not really hungry during my period, but I have to force myself to eat so my tummy could get better and I just feel more comfortable and relaxed within the next few hours. But again, everyone is different, and this is the thing that I normally use when I'm at home. But when it comes to going out and about, this is a little bit of a thing that it can be a little bit awkward, but it could be a confusion like, I'm not too sure. But before I did this video, I found something on Instagram that actually made me think about filming this video, and this was a top tips picture about periods, and this was drawn up and this was uploaded by a wonderful blogger called Vicky, who has a blog called The Girl on the Spectrum, and you may recognise her because she's a really well-known blogger and she's just been nominated for an award as of May 2019. So if you want to have a look at her blog, I will leave her link in the description box down below. When I read Vicky's post, I was blown away. I thought to myself, wow, that was a really brave thing to do, and I really admire her for that. And I will explain a little bit about that because I will leave a picture somewhere around the video. She's given girls on the autistic spectrum 5 tips on when you start your period or during your period. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read her post out and share with you Vicky's tips on autism and periods. I will try to zoom in the tips as much as I possibly can, or if that's not possible, I will try just to include them in text around the video as well. So here we go. Autism periods top tips. Top tip number 1, keep a diary. Keeping track can be really helpful as you know when you are due to start your period and can avoid little accidents. Top tip number 2, be prepared. Always have sanitary products with you just in case you need them. You never know. Top tip number 3, pain management. I always used to get really bad stomach cramps. I learned to take ibuprofen and paracetamol, or a couple. a couple? I think that's how you pronounce it, right? But I've never heard of the medicine before. Or carpal, just as the period was starting, and this would help ease any pain. Also, hot baths and heat packs / hot water bottles can help too. Top tip number 4, find what is right for you. I spent ages going through different sanitary products until I found what suited me. I spent years having meltdowns as a result of not being comfortable, so find what works for you. And top tip number 5, do things that make you happy. When I'm on my period, I like to lounge around in my PJs watching movies and eating chocolate. Granted, I can't always do this, but sometimes it can make you feel better if you've been feeling rubbish. And that's it. That was the video. Yeah, I think that was all I could say really, and I have been talking about it for 30 minutes, but I'm gonna have to cut it down, but it will be a long video though anyway. But yeah, sorry about that guys, but there was a little bit of awkwardness in there, but hey ho, never mind, what can you do? But yeah, anyway guys, until then, I hope you have a wonderful day, and if you have any top tips of your own, let me know in the comment section down below, and let's get talking about it. I know that it might be uncomfortable for some people, especially for the boys, but I will try to focus on less uncomfortable stuff next time, just like I said before. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day guys, wherever you are in the world, and always remember to keep on dreaming and never stop believing. I'll see you very soon. Bye bye.